Good evening, I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Tonight, the number of shelter beds in our city just got much greater. Plus, people in our community sounded the alarm over not enough funding in healthcare. We'll tell you how the province is responding. How do you clean 33,000 balls? A local business has it figured out. And an important deadline for vaccinations is approaching. Students need to get up to date or face suspension. Windsor's largest overnight emergency shelter is adding more beds. The downtown Mission is increasing capacity for the first time since the COVID-19 pandemic hit. The CBC's Jennifer LaGrassa reports.
With the increased need, increased capacity was a must.
Colder months and a growing demand have led the downtown Mission to add a dozen overnight shelter beds, bringing its total up to 96, which is still 7 less beds than what it had pre-COVID-19.
We're used to our capacity getting full in the winter months. This year it's a little earlier than we've seen in past years. I don't really know exactly why that is. I don't know if the overall population has increased, but it certainly seems that way.
The bed increase is taking place after the Mission consulted with the Windsor-Essex County Health Unit to ensure that people are still appropriately spaced. Next Monday, it also plans to open a warming center in partnership with the city. The Mission ran its first warming center in February this year after a person experiencing homelessness died on the streets. At the time, only 10 spots were available in the lobby. Now, up to 30 people can drop in here and grab a seat to get warm. Windsor's Salvation Army Center of Hope is also noticing an increase.
What our staff are finding, especially in recent months over the last year, and probably even since the onset of COVID, I'm not sure it's connected though, is that we're seeing a lot of new faces. We're seeing a lot of new names.
The center says high inflation and the rising cost of housing are likely behind the struggle. Pinkinson says that they never reduced their beds due to the pandemic. Instead, they increased capacity by adding 6 more beds, bringing them to 32 over the last 2 years. Jennifer LaGrassa, CBC News, Windsor.
Protesters took to the streets in Windsor today. They're demanding improvements to the healthcare system, saying the government needs to do more. Pointing to problems in Windsor they say are signs of a system stretched thin. Dozens of people set up posts at Walker and Tecumseh this afternoon. Protesters warning about increased privatization of people's medical care. It was part of a planned rally that saw scenes like this play out in multiple cities across the province.
Well, the province has dropped the ball. I was just thinking they need to drop a whole bunch of coal in front of Doug Ford's office because that's all he deserves for Christmas. He's done a horrifying job. Everything's falling apart currently. He seems to pretend nothing's happening.
We see our healthcare system collapsing. And when I say that we see that, look around. We've had code blacks in our EMS service here consistently to the point that we had to have an emergency declaration.
These scenes also playing out in Toronto. It's as pediatric hospitals continue to treat a surge in children with respiratory viruses. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redekop on the protests and the province's response.
Oh, hey, hey, ho, ho, Ford's cuts have got to go.
They rallied outside Toronto General Hospital with a message for the government. Healthcare workers seeing the situation in hospitals firsthand are among the people here.
It's nonstop. It's nonstop children with gastrointestinal symptoms and respiratory symptoms, and families are scared.
But he says adult ERs are also overwhelmed.
My patients are waiting 3 to 5 days on ER stretchers to be admitted to hospitals. My patients are waiting 5 hours for basic blood work. My patient in her 90s with a fall and bleeding in her head and a fractured spine, I assessed and reassessed and got a consultation with a specialist, all from a waiting room chair.
The rally was organized by the Ontario Health Coalition. It wants the government to end its court fight over Bill 124, which limits wage increases, including for nurses. It says Doug Ford and his government need to entice retired workers back.
If you're a nurse, if you're a health professional, we need you back.
come back. We'll provide you the supports we need. We'll provide you some control over your schedules. We'll reduce the workloads.
In Collingwood today, the health minister was asked about one case first reported by the Toronto Star about a 4-year-old who had to be flown to Kingston for care 350 kilometres away because nearby hospitals were full.
Look, I get it. It's not ideal as a family to have a child that far away, but it is also important to appreciate that by doing that air transport, that child was able to be assessed and treated sooner.
She says it's an example of hospitals working together. The Premier was asked his advice to Ontarians given the situation in hospitals.
Yeah, go out and get your flu shot. That's the most important.
This doctor's advice for the Premier and Health Minister?
Come spend a night with an ER nurse where I work and see for yourselves what ERs are facing, what patients and families are facing right now.
And as he continued, an Orange Air ambulance landed at sick kids at a time when more children are being flown away for care. Lorenda Redicomp, CBC News, Toronto.
A brand new Windsor business is promising to fill a gap for energetic kids. Slides Indoor Playhouse just opened in the city, and owners say they know expectations around keeping places safe has changed. As we all know, COVID is still a concern, and RSV among kids is hitting hospitals hard. The CBC's Jason Vio went inside to see how they're trying to keep kids safe.
Coins, candy, and socks. Those are some of the common things found beneath these balls. But a big concern is something you can't see, such as germs.
The playground right now is cleaner than my own home. It truly is.
The husband and wife owners have 3 young boys of their own, ages 3, 6, and 7. They inspired this space after noticing so few indoor options for young kids. Even as COVID and RSV continue to spread, it didn't deter them from making this ballsy investment.
Because of what's going on, because of those 2 years that we went through, this is so needed. Our kids have been locked up for too long, masked up for too long. They need to be normal kids again. They need this.
Research published by the American Journal of Infection Control in 2019 found 8 bacteria within ball pits they studied that could cause disease. Here's this business's solution. Each and every Monday, Slides Indoor Playground closes for the entire day for a deep clean. One of the main tasks, though, is to clean each and every one of these 33,000 balls. This large ball cleaning machine was ordered from overseas. The 2 pits are divided up, one half full of balls and the other empty. Then it sucks them up in this large clear hose, bathes them in cleaner, sends them to a UV light dryer, and spits them back into the empty pit.
This place isn't massive, but we actually have 11 in total of staff. And it's because we want to keep up with the cleanliness and the sanitizing of this place.
Shining and sanitizing the balls isn't all they do. A team of 5 spends 3 hours thoroughly wiping everything down. Here's a before and after of a mat with the dirty side on the right.
We have to make sure that it is a safe place for everybody to come in. Just like bringing our own kids in, we want everybody to feel the same way.
I feel it not really comfortable to bring her to some places like those, but I trust the people who work here. They can clean and sanitize everything.
Sliding down can certainly be fun, but the owners take a lot of pride in knowing the balls you bounce into at the end are meticulously cleaned. Jason Vio, CBC News, Windsor.
Something else for parents to take note of, the Windsor Health Unit is warning about an upcoming deadline for vaccinations. These are the ones students are required to be up to date on, or they'll be suspended. More than 12,000 students do not have up-to-date records, according to the Health Unit. They're asking parents to get those up to date before March. That's when suspensions could be issued to students. Those can last up to 20 days. You can go to the Health Unit's website for a list of all immunizations that are required for students. Children dealing with COVID-19, influenza, and RSV are a big concern for their parents and a challenge for those balancing childcare with their jobs. Some parents don't have paid sick leave days, while others have run out of them. They're calling for changes to help them cope. Yasmin Gandam has more.
I just felt like I was at breaking point.
Sarah Ryan is a mom of 2 in Kamloops. She has used 18 sick days this year to care for her kids and doesn't have any left.
I think it was October when my kids were sick. I was ready to just quit everything, quit my job.
She says both her kids have fallen ill with COVID, the flu, and RSV.
My daycare has still a 0 symptom policy because it's a home daycare. So if the daycare owner gets sick, then she has to close the daycare.
With no sick leave left, she worries about what to do if her kids get sick again.
Do we reintroduce masks again? Can we make our kids wear a mask again? They hate masks.
This pediatrician says in the current climate, any flu symptom is enough for a child to stay home.
Even when they've got a new, just new runny nose and sore throat where we know something might be in the mail. Because we're seeing that doctors' offices, emergency departments, hospitals are all full of children.
But keeping kids home isn't always easy for some. Labor experts say women are more likely to stay home to care for kids than men, and some who do not work in jobs that permit working remotely face extra challenges.
In particular, women in the service sector and in frontline services. And so that may well require taking unpaid leave in order to care for children.
The BC Federation of Labor is calling on the province to offer more paid sick days amid a surge in respiratory illnesses.
Folks shouldn't have to choose between going to work and feeding their families or paying their bills, right? And that is, currently the situation. 5 days doesn't go very far if you get a COVID diagnosis.
The province currently offers 5 paid sick days to eligible employees. The BC Federation of Labor is hoping to up that to 15. But parents like Ryan say that's not nearly enough.
I've used 18, right? So 5 is like a drop in the bucket.
This parent just hanging on and hoping her kids manage to dodge more illness. Yasmin Gandam, CBC News, Vancouver.
NDP leader Jagmeet Singh is calling for an emergency debate in the House of Commons to address the crisis at children's hospitals. They are now dealing with a massive influx of sick kids. In his official request, Singh cited several alarming developments.
In Calgary, at the children's hospital, because the demand is so high, there are trailers set up outside the children's hospital to deal with the excess demand. Children have died in Alberta or in BC. And in Ottawa, the Red Cross has had to be called in to children's hospitals. We are faced with a serious crisis.
Singh has been calling for the federal government to do more to address the healthcare crisis. He wants Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to meet with premiers to work on a solution. A Liberal member of Parliament from Winnipeg has died. Jim Carr was 71. His death from cancer was announced today in the House of Commons.
Our colleague Jim Carr just passed away, and I think it would be an appropriate thing if we could just have a moment of silence and a prayer.
Canadians will remember him as being a strong voice for the prairies and a strong voice for positive change. And so to his family and loved ones, thank you.
Carr had represented the riding of Winnipeg South Centre from 2015. He served as the Minister of Natural Resources and then Minister of Internal Trade Diversification. The day after being re-elected in 2019, he was diagnosed with the blood cancer multiple myeloma. Still, he worked until the end, appearing just last week in the House of Commons. The House and its committees adjourned for the day after the announcement. To Iran now, where another person has been executed associated with the ongoing protests against the regime. The person was hanged, convicted of stabbing 2 members of a group that is cracking down on demonstrations. Abhi Kukadasan reports.
On Monday morning, Majid Rezhauranavard's family received a phone call informing them he had been executed and buried. He was only arrested 23 days ago for allegedly killing 2 members of the security forces. The 23-year-old was convicted and sentenced to death, but these tribunals are held behind closed doors. The defendants can't choose their own lawyer and often aren't made aware of the evidence against them. Last week, Mohsen Shakari was the first known person linked to pro-democracy demonstrations to be hanged.
I had a long conversation with the Foreign Affairs Minister of Iran, talk about this execution. I expressed the concern of the European Union, the condemnation, and the sanctions that are going to be taken today.
Amnesty International says at least a dozen people have now been sentenced to death. Iranian human rights advocates believe more than 18,000 people have been detained since the popular uprisings began nearly 3 months ago. Azadeh Pourzand is a human rights researcher and says the regime will look to target some protesters.
Most of the executions that we're going to see are going to be from the more marginalized groups, from the minority groups, the less affluent groups, and the less well-known individuals who are behind bars. We're worried about thousands of people that we don't know enough about.
She says even for the Islamic Republic, which has executed its own citizens for years, the 2 hangings in the last few days are a new low. Iran is one of the world leaders in state-sanctioned killings, and there is grave concern about what the regime will do as it faces the most serious challenge to its rule since the 1979 revolution. Abby Kuadas in CBC News, London.
A live look outside there. It'll be mainly cloudy tonight and mainly cloudy tomorrow as well. But for those of you who are excited about the possibility of some snow, we might be in luck later this week. Colette will have more right after the break. Stay with us. Colette Kennedy joins us now for a look at our weather forecast. And Colette, you're here. I took a peek at the forecast and I was looking into the end of the week, and it looks like we might get some snow, but maybe not quite the kind of snow we want.
Yeah, it is looking like a bit of everything, like one of those situations, but really, primarily, I just want everyone to be kind of tuned in that Thursday isn't going to be a good day to be on the roads or a good travel day. So no matter what we get exactly into the Windsor area, say, any kind of travel beyond isn't looking very good because of the mix of conditions. So I am going to get to that a bit more in just a moment here. We'll start off with where our current conditions are. In terms of our temperature, you know, the high today, 2 degrees, the low, 0, so not a lot, and this is being rounded up now, but like just very little change, right? In the temperature, a couple of degrees is all you get between highs and lows in terms of what we're seeing. We've got an easterly flow. Winds aren't very strong, but also 10, 15 kilometers an hour. As soon as that temperature dips below freezing, that's actually enough. That's really all it takes. You get a wind chill factor that we need to be talking about. So the cloud cover, it's been an interesting day where across the province, the clouds have been trying to carve back and erode from east to west. Sometimes we see it the opposite direction, but not exactly the way it's been going today. And the reason I'm giving you the full picture here going broad into the U.S. is because this next storm that's going to have an impact later in the week is still kind of getting itself together, forming in Southern California. It's still going to make its way through the Rockies, but there's also been a lot of active weather there, even stretching as far as the Northern Plains. So I'm just putting on the U.S. watches and warnings, and you can just see how extensive they are. But for example, the purple here, which expands over 5 states, blizzard warnings. That's blizzard. And then outside of that, the white winter storm warnings, high wind warnings. There's even an ice storm warning in there. So all kind of associated with the energy that's eventually going to be coming eastward. That's why we have to just sort of take it easy and enjoy what we have tonight. What we have for Tuesday is we'll get some clearing, probably some clouds in the morning, and then we get into more sunshine. So a little bit variable. And speaking of variable, Wednesday is going to be that kind of day where clouds in and out. But by the time we get to late day Wednesday, this thing is going to be on our doorstep because the temperature will rise and we'll probably get into the warm sector. Likely more rain for Windsor, but at times it will be mixing, and elsewhere close by it is not going to be fun. Overnight temperatures tonight down to -2, tomorrow 3 degrees. Enjoy your Tuesday. Wednesday not so bad, and just get yourself prepared for some bad conditions as we go into Thursday.
Oh gosh, okay, thanks for that, Colette.
You're welcome.
When we come back, the Great Canadian Holiday Baking Show just wrapped up, and we'll tell you about the winner. Stay with us.
Available free.
Some scary-looking critters were spotted roaming the streets of Munich on the weekend. Furry beasts that appear before every Christmas and make the Grinch look like a teddy bear.
Just seeing the different variations on Krampus, it's so fun, and the different size bells and the anticipation of hearing them before you see them. It's incredible.
The Krampus is a figure from local folklore who scares children who have been naughty, while Santa Claus rewards those who have been nice with treats. Many of the creatures returned this holiday season after staying away for 2 years. They spent much of the pandemic isolating, like so many others. Okay, now for something a little bit more sweet. The Great Canadian Holiday Baking Show has just wrapped up right here on CBC, and we'll issue your warning right now. There are spoilers ahead if you are not caught up. The show's latest winner is a Hamilton woman. CBC spoke with Mahathi Munlaru and even got a holiday how-to for some festive treats.
Hey, I'm Mahathi Munlaru. I was a finalist on the season 4 of the Great Canadian Baking Show, and most recently I won season 6 Great Canadian Holiday Baking Show. You want it to be a little bit kind of doughy. I'm gonna measure about 35 grams per tart. Going back to the tent for the holiday baking show was incredible. I had the opportunity to bake with 3 other amazing bakers. We're gonna do a French meringue. So we're gonna get our egg whites over here that have already been separated. Bubbles are starting to form, and this is when I will be adding my cream of tartar. Being on the holiday show was awesome. It definitely got me into the holiday mood. I definitely feel ready to host some parties and have some great Christmas bakes happening. You're supposed to be able to put this bowl over your head and nothing falls onto it. So like, yeah, my hair's clean, right? Today I made some hot chocolate snow globe tarts. It's a nice flaky buttery tart filled with a chocolatey diplomat cream, filled with a nice toasted meringue and a nice snow globe on top. So next up, we're gonna be making our snow globe domes, and we're gonna do that using isomalt. I definitely think everyone should give baking a try. It's so much fun, and honestly, if you're worried about it, don't be. I'm gonna take about a tablespoon of it, and I'm gonna add it into one of these little dome silicone molds. Experiment, just try your best, find your favorite recipe blog, find your favorite cookbook, and just try it, you know, because at the end of the day, baking is what? Butter, sugar, eggs, and flour. It will taste good no matter what. So just give it a try. Even if it's not 100% what you want it to be, it's gonna be pretty good. Just come out, pop out like that. This is definitely just the start of my holiday baking. I'm planning to do a whole bunch of sugar cookies, and my ultimate project is to make a gingerbread kind of cathedral that's about 1 foot tall and long. And the plan is to have cutout windows all along the side, and I'll be using isomalt, sugar, and gelatin sheets to make kind of these beautiful stained glass windows. And voila, here are your snow globe tarts.
Yummy treats there. And this is a good time to remind everyone about our special Sounds of the Season shows happening this Thursday. All month we've been highlighting the good work that folks have been doing in Windsor, Essex, from filling up donation bins to people picking up one another's wish lists. And on Thursday we'll have all the goods for you. A live Windsor morning show that you can watch in studio, plus special programming for our 6 o'clock show with a meet and greet at noon that day. All the details, head to our website, cbc.ca/Windsor. That is it for CBC Windsor News. Thanks for watching and have a great night.